So I've got a lot to say about this one if I haven't said a lot about the other two. Hello Wanderers, welcome to my channel and thank you for clicking on my video. So as you may have seen by the title, today I'm going to give you a couple of my favorite fantasy series that I think are really easy to read. These are not overly political series, they're not series with characters that have like super deep character developments and you have to really focus when you read these. These are just like easy to go through, good characters, as I said in my title, kind of strong, interesting main female characters, and overall it's just a nice easy read. You don't really have to think much while you're reading these series. I'm going to go through the series in general. I have read all these series personally and I have enjoyed them, and I just really think a general overview will be much easier than going through them book by book. Just a warning, I will try my best to avoid spoilers by giving a general overall look at each of the books, but there may be one or two spoilers. I will not give out the big spoilers, but if I do give out some spoilers, forgive me, I'm sorry. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first series that I'm going to be talking about is called the Darkest Powers Trilogy, and it's by Kelleyarmstrong. So it's got 3 books because it's a trilogy. It's got the Summoning, the Awakening, and the Reckoning. Now, there is a 4th book called the Atoning, but it's kind of brought in a series, one of Kelleyarmstrong's other series or characters from that other series, and brought it in. So it's, for now, that's not going to be a part of this discussion. If you find this very interesting, I could do a review of her other series and include the atonements in it, but for now we're just going to focus on the main trilogy. So, the Darkest Powers. First of all, I found that it was a very easy read. Okay, I think that the tone of the book was set from the beginning. I feel like it was kind of constant throughout the series, and yeah, I think it's there's nothing complicated in it. You know, it's based in America, it's very modern, it's not these extremely complicated politics and names. It's a teenage girl in modern America. Now, the main character's name is Chloe, and she is seeing ghosts, or she believes she's seeing ghosts, and because of this she gets sent to a mental health facility, shall I say. It's more like a house than a facility, and she has to meet a whole bunch of the other characters there, and it's kind of her journey from going from she thinks she's seeing ghosts into what's actually happening, and it's her journey through accepting that and accepting that it's not just her, it's other characters in the book, and it goes throughout the whole trilogy. It's basically her learning curve throughout the trilogy. Now, it can be a bit of a tease, the first book, if you can say that. You do kind of feel like it's building up to something, and then at the end of the book you're kind of like, and then, but it really does, if you're able to get the trilogy, it really does flow into each other really easily. Luckily the series was made quite a while ago, so all 3 books are out and you can get them as a trilogy, so do that. I recommend doing that, otherwise the first book may just drive you crazy without like what is going on. But overall I think it really sets the ground rules. It sets the stakes of what these characters are going to be up against, and it kind of sets up the characters very well. It sets up Chloe as someone who is someone completely out of the supernatural world, who doesn't even consider that it could be real, and it sets her up into kind of experiencing some things and then realizing that this is now how it is and this is now her life, and she needs to kind of grow and handle this. Throughout the series there is a romantic aspect. There's not a romance triangle, or it could be seen as one, but I do not see it as one at all. Please. I can't stand that trope. It's one of my biggest pet peeves, is when there's a love triangle. I can't, it drives me mad. But anyway, It's a little bit of romance in it. The romance never, throughout the book, the romance never feels like it's forced, and it never feels like it's taking away from the main plot. It kind of comes in a more natural way, and it flows very well with the plot. So I was very happy with the relationships and the romance. I thought it was great. And it does kind of give us a chance to see our characters, especially Chloe and one of the other characters, Derek. It really kind of sees them grow into their responsibilities. The other characters, Tori and Simon, they kind of already know where they are, they know who they are, what kind of people they are. But for Chloe and Derek, it's very much a thing of finding out who they are and accepting that this is the way they are. And yeah, one thing I will say about it is very much a thing of teenagers versus adults. There's never really a place where you feel that the adults are kind of on the same team as the teenagers. And I feel like that trope can sometimes be a little bit difficult, especially if you're a younger reader, because it does kind of initiate that feeling of adults, adults bad kind of thing. But myself being an adult, I understand that, and I can take away that it's not the reality. But I do think it's something, if you're a younger viewer, something to be aware of, that, adults are not always bad. There are people that you can rely on, and etc, etc. So overall, I think that the ending rounded off really well. I think that all of the loose ends were kind of tied in a way that still leaves an open ending for books like The Atonement that I've already kind of mentioned earlier, but also it kind of opens up a way that you can see how the characters have grown already, and how they can maybe take all of their life lessons and what they've learned about themselves and kind of progress that into their everyday living. It's not like one of those things where you've now had your previous life, you've realized supernatural, and then all of a sudden there's no more of your regular life. It's kind of just being destroyed and it's just supernatural from now on. No, you can really see how they try and make sure that they still want to be part of normal everyday life, and they really make an effort to try and find a way to balance the supernatural along with the normal, which I think was really cool. It was an interesting concept that you don't often see, especially in like normal media that you consume. So yeah, Darkest Powers by Kelleyarmstrong, give it a go. Really enjoyed it. Nice and easy. You don't have to think very hard, which is great. The next one is a series called An Ember in the Ashes by Sabaa Tabir. So it is a tetralogy. So there are 4 books in the series, and this one is a little bit more complex than Darkest Powers. I feel like Darkest Powers, you can just read it, you can just go through it, whereas in Ember in the Ashes, there is a little bit more of a world building that you have to connect to. There's a little bit more politics that you have to connect to, but not in a way that it is overpowering or overwhelming. The supernatural aspect is relatively well thought through, and the world building is easy to understand, easy to conceptualize and to envision, which I think is very important, especially if it's something like An Ember in the Ashes, where it's not full on supernatural. There are kind of like aspects of supernatural that are brought into a generally regular series, if that makes sense. Yeah, so like I said, there are 4 books, and if you go through the series, the names of the series, you start with An Ember in the Ashes, which kind of gives you an idea of how the series is going to start. Then it goes into A Torch Against the Night, then a Reaper at the Gates, and then A Sky Beyond the Storm. So if you think of all of these headings or titles of these books, it kind of gives you an overview of the story and a very good overall look at the themes, especially the theme of hope that I think Sabaa Tabir is trying to get through to the readers. Sabaa Tabir, I did practice that. So if you think of An Ember in the Ashes, ashes, something being burnt down, but there's still an ember, there's still a little bit of hope. And then we get A Torch Against the Night, darkness, a torch. They're all very visual, and they're very visual things for for the themes, and it's not just hope, it's all kinds of different themes as well, which I think was very, very cool. I like how it goes from an ember in the ashes all the way to the sky. So you start grounded, you start burnt out, and then suddenly it's sky, it's freedom, it's all of these beautiful things in the sky. And I just think that's really, really cool. It's a nice imagery to have, even if you've never read the books. If you can just read the titles of the books, you already get a kind of feel for what the author is going for, which is really, really cool. I did enjoy that. So something that I think is really awesome is that it is a new kind of thought process going into the supernatural aspects of it. There are a few books that I've seen that have similar supernatural aspects, but none of them have really caught my eye the way that this series has. So it does bring in the concept of gods in a way. There were once gods who walked the earth. There was a big cataclysm, something that happened, no spoilers, and they kind of fell away. And actually they were kind of grown into the human populace, into the people down below, and through the generations, you know, it's really come clear with the characters that we have now. And yeah, I think it's very cool. I love that aspect of it. I think the fact that you have to fall in love, you know, I think it's a powerful thing. You can't just take. It has to be a real sacrifice every single time, which I think is very cool. It's very, it hits you kind of once you figure it out for yourself. It's kind of like, oh yeah, you're right, you know, you can't just take for what you want. You need to be able to, if you're going to take something from someone else, you need to be able to love it the way that they loved it. You need to be able to love them in order to take something from them like that. And I think that's very cool. It's a very nice theme to have. I think the general plays, you know, Liar as a slave, Elias as a soldier, I think that's very much based in typical tropes, which I don't mind at all, especially in easy reads. I think it's really, really cool to have those comfort tropes, those things that you can go back to and be like, Wattpad, quotive, I've been here before. You know, it just gives you this kind of comfort of like, you know the characters, you know that kind of what's going to happen. And I really enjoyed how they brought them together, how it was a thing of, you've got people living in completely different worlds, a soldier versus a slave. You know, you wouldn't think that they've got a lot in common, but actually that feeling of being trapped, of not being where you're supposed to be, doing what you're supposed to be doing, I think is very, very cool. I think that Sabaa really brought that in very well when it came to Elias and Liar. It's a thing with blurbs. I have a thing with blurbs. I don't believe that a blurb should write out the story. It's a thing of, you know, you should respect your readers enough to let them figure it out. And the blurb did kind of thing that for me, where it says like, it says exactly what I said. Liar is a slave, Elias is a soldier, but neither of them are free. I feel like you need to kind of figure that out for yourself as a reader. You shouldn't be told that when you're looking at a blurb and trying to figure out what the book is like. And I think that's very important. But yeah, I think overall the series went along very well. I think the first book ended off in a way that you were satisfied. You were like, okay, cool. This is where a satisfying ending. You can see where the story wants to go. It's not just kind of like and then they've got a plan. They know what they're going to do. You know what's coming in the next couple of books, or you can at least guess, which I think is really, really cool. The character development with Liar, I think, is a lot more subtle. She starts off as, you know, someone who's normal, someone who just worked and did what she had to do, and then she turned into a slave, and then she turned into kind of like a hero, an ember in the ashes. And I think that it was very subtle. It wasn't done suddenly. It wasn't like she became a whole different person just to become the stronger, more badass character. I think she really, from the beginning, she had that core in her that was just like, I can do it. She had that really cool core that I think was great. I think the characters that we lost along the way, I think, was really, really poignant to the whole story. And it wasn't a thing of just killing off characters for the hell of it, which is really, really frustrating as a reader. It really is. I think that they really did it well. The stakes were high. I think that it was a thing of, it was necessary for motivation for the characters to move on, for regrets, for all of those kinds of things, for fury and everything like that. So I think it was really, really cool. And overall, I think the ending, I was a little bit surprised at the ending. I'm not saying it's a bad ending, but I was surprised with the way that it ended. It did feel like everything was tied up in a very neat little bow, which kind of wasn't the vibe I got from the rest of the series. The rest of the series was kind of, struggle and challenges, and then at the end everything's kind of tied up neatly in a bow, world saved, woo, which is great. Love a happy ending. But I do think there needs to be some kind of consequences other than the ones that happened in the book throughout the previous books at the end. You need to kind of feel those consequences, and at the end I didn't really feel them as much as I might have. But overall, really great series. I loved the timing of it all. I thought that it was a little bit slower paced, which I think is nice. You need a break from a little bit of the action scenes, but there wasn't so much that I felt like I was just kind of going along with it step by step. I think that there was enough action and enough politics, if I can say, and world building that it kind of kept me interested the whole time, even during those lulls where there maybe was a little bit more monologuing and explaining and all those kind of things. So I think that was really well done, and yeah, overall really good series. I enjoyed it. The next one is Sevenrealms, and it is by Cindawilliams Chima. This is one of my favorite tetralogies. It is, if I am feeling just like really low and I just really want to just pick me up kind of thing, and I'll read this. So I've got a lot to say about this one if I haven't said a lot about the other two. So Sevenrealms is, as I said, it's 4 books, and it's based in a country, or a country, it's an outside country. There's a lot of world building that needs to be brought into it, which I think is done very, very well. You understand everyone's motivations and everything right at the beginning. From the beginning, you understand that where the conflict is, why there's conflict, and what the motivations of each groups of people are, which I think is really, really cool. Racer is a princess, but what I really, really liked about the character, and it's something that's taken through all 4 books, is that it's not a traditional princess role. She understands that she's a princess, and what I love about her is that she understands that being in a position within the castle, being one of the royalty, means that she is actually a servant to her people, which I love. I think that's really, really great message, especially for like younger readers. If you're like 12, 13, which I think is a bit young for this series, maybe more like 15, 16. But I mean, even if you're that young and you're reading this, I think is a really, really great message. If you are in a position of leadership, you need to be able to work hard. You can't take it easy. You need to be able to work hard. You need to be able to keep to your values, and you need to be able to have yourself working for the people under you. And in this case, Racer is working for the people of the Fells, which is a bunch of different races. It's the Vale Dwellers, which are just normal people, wizards, and then the clan, who are much more traditional. They are in the mountains, they are one with the earth, which is really cool. But all 3 of these, she needs to kind of connect them, which is really cool. The politics is a little bit more, has taken a bit of a step up compared to the other books that I've mentioned already, but not in a way that it's super complicated. I think Cindawilliams has done a very good job at putting politics but keeping it simple enough that we know who everyone is, we know who everyone's motivations are, without it being very, very complicated. I did find a little bit that the geography was a little bit confusing for me. I wasn't quite sure where who was at the time. I did think it was a bit confusing. There is a map at the beginning, which is very helpful, But yeah, I found it a little bit, every now and then I'd be like, where are we, and who are these people, and where do they come from exactly? And then you kind of have to puzzle those pieces together. But overall, I think it's very well written. I think it's, like I said, it's an easy read. It's not like you're reading a super complicated political anything like that. It's nice and easy, still makes sense in the time period and with the people that we are with, which is mostly around the wizards and the clan and the royal family, which I think is really, really cool. There is, you know, there's betrayal, there's heartbreak, there's family, you know, there's kind of tensions within the family and outside the family. There is a little bit of a romantic triangle here, which is something that annoyed me about the character of Racer, is that she is a little bit flighty when it comes to her romances, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think that it's important that it's not always this very innocent girl who's like, you know, virginal white and never done anything. But I do think she's a tad bit too flighty with all of her romances, which is okay. Just something you need to be aware of if it's something that annoys you. But I think, yeah, I adore Race as a character. I enjoy Han, I enjoy all of them. I think that is very interesting, and I love the dynamic that we have between all of the characters as you move on through the series. So the first book, you're kind of meeting everyone, you're kind of seeing how everyone joins to where they are. Second book, it becomes more complicated. Third book, it's more complicated. And fourth book, it's just everything comes together. And I think it's really, really great. All the plans fall together. And something that I enjoyed is, even though it has a happy ending, there is still that feeling of doom. I know that there is a second series that's come out that's kind of like a sequel to this one that deals with the next generation. But I read the first chapter and I immediately said no. And if you read this and you've read the second series or the sequel, you will know why, because I just could not with that first chapter. I was so angry. I was like, you can't do this to me. But anyways, I haven't read that yet, but I will get to it. I just need to get over myself, you know. I need to get over the you can't do that to me part of it, but we will get there. So yeah, overall I really, really enjoyed it. I think that the politics was intriguing enough that it kept me going, and there's more than enough action and sequences. There's not like the super boring monologues and meetings and stuff like that sometimes you have to read through because you need to know what's going on, but you're kind of like, can we just kind of get through it now a little bit? So yeah, so I think it's really, really great, and I definitely recommend it. It's one of my favorites. Okay guys, so that was my list of my top 3 super easy to read fantasy series, just so if you have a day off or if you're in a slump, let me know what you think. Let me know if you agree with me or disagree with me, and if you have anything that you think should have definitely been included in this list, let me know down below in the comments. Okay, cool guys, keep wondering.